The crystalline spires of the Archean War Council chamber pierced the violet sky of Arxos Prime, their translucent surfaces refracting starlight in complex patterns that danced across the assembled dignitaries. High Admiral Zexthor dominated the center of the chamber, his iridescent exoskeleton polished to perfection, each facet catching and splitting light into rainbow cascades. His mandibles clicked with barely contained excitement as he manipulated the holographic display before the council. "Behold," he announced, his translator converting the clicks and whistles of his native speech into the common galactic language. The so-called Earth Defense Fleet. The hologram shifted, showing 37 capital ships arranged in what appeared to be a defensive formation around their homeworld. Their design philosophy is laughably primitive. They favor thick armor over energy shielding, rely on ballistic weapons alongside energy-based ones, and their targeting systems are at least 3 generations behind our standard loadout. From her position at the chamber's edge, Sub-Commander Vex'Eli fought the urge to interrupt. Her sensor arrays had detected bizarre energy signatures emanating from the Terran fleet during their reconnaissance missions. The patterns didn't match any known human technology, or any known technology at all. But her concerns had been dismissed by her superior with a patronizing wave of his primary manipulators. "High Admiral," Council Member Kexera interrupted, their crystalline form shifting colors to indicate concern. "The intelligence reports regarding human combat capabilities are troubling. They have emerged victorious from conflicts where they were severely outgunned and outmanned. Perhaps a more cautious approach." Zexthor's mandibles clattered in what passed for laughter among his kind. "Respected Council, I have personally reviewed every report of human ingenuity in battle. Their victory against the Drachnid swarms was pure luck. The swarms were already weakened by internal conflicts. The collective's defeat was due to their own rigid thinking, not human superiority. Under my command, we will demonstrate proper military doctrine to these primitives." The council chamber erupted in discussion, crystalline forms shifting and refracting light in complex patterns that conveyed meaning as much as the words spoken. Vex'Eli noticed how Zexthor manipulated the conversation, playing to the council's pride and their deeply held belief in Archean superiority. Within hours, he had his approval. 3 days later, Zexthor's fleet dropped out of hyperspace near Saturn, 150 ships strong. It was the largest Archean battle group assembled in the past century. Vex'Eli stood at her monitoring station aboard the flagship Crystal Dominion *, watching as the Terran ships adjusted their positions in what appeared to be a haphazard response to their arrival. "Look at them," Zexthor chittered from his command podium. "They don't even maintain proper formation spacing. This will be over quickly." He turned to his communications officer. "Open a channel to their command ship." The main viewer remained dark for several moments before flickering to life. Instead of their command ship, the transmission came from a small Corvette-class vessel. A human female appeared on screen, her dark hair pulled back in a neat bun, a steaming cup of some liquid in her hands. "This is Commander Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force," she said, smiling warmly as if greeting an old friend. "To whom do I have the pleasure of speaking?" Zexthor's mandibles twitched in annoyance at the informal tone. "I am High Admiral Zexthor of the Archean Empire. Your fleet will surrender immediately or face annihilation. You have 1 standard hour to comply." Commander Chen took a sip from her cup, appearing completely unfazed by the threat. "High Admiral, I wonder if you might indulge us in an ancient Earth custom. Before battle, it was traditional for commanders to share a meal and drink together. It would give us an opportunity to discuss terms." Vex'Eli's sensors pinged urgently. The Terran fleet was moving, their seemingly random patterns creating complex geometric relationships with the Archean fleet's position. But when she tried to analyze the purpose of these maneuvers, the tactical computer could find no strategic advantage to their positioning. "Very well," Zexthor said, mandibles clicking in amusement. "A demonstration of Archean civility before we show you proper military might. You have 30 minutes to prepare for my arrival." As the transmission ended, Vex Ailey approached her commander. "Hi, Admiral. These sensor readings are unlike anything I've seen. The humans appear to be maintaining their chaotic and undisciplined nature," Zexthor interrupted. "Watch and learn, Sub-Commander. Today, I will teach both you and these humans the price of deviation from proper military doctrine." As Zexthor prepared for his diplomatic demonstration, none of his crew noticed the slight smile that played across Commander Chen's face just before the transmission ended, nor the way the Terran ships continued their precise dance through space, weaving an invisible web that would soon transform the solar system into a battlefield unlike anything the Arxian Empire had ever encountered. In her quarters aboard the Corvette, Commander Chen opened a secure channel to Earth Command. "The bait has been taken," she reported. "Threat assessment." The response was immediate. Exactly as predicted. Pride level at 98% match with psychological profile. Proceeding with Phase 2. Chen smiled, taking another sip of her coffee. "Some say pride goes before a fall," she murmured. "They have no idea how far this fall will be." Commander Sarah Chen's Corvette, the Swift Deception, docked with the Arxian flagship amid a flurry of scanning beams and security protocols. She emerged from her ship carrying a handcrafted wooden box, her Earth Defense Force uniform pristine, that same disarming smile still playing across her features. Behind her, 2 junior officers carried what appeared to be environmental support equipment. Necessary, the Arxians assumed, for humans to survive in their ship's crystal-based atmosphere. The Honor Guard's crystalline armor refracted light in complex patterns as they escorted her through the massive vessel. Chen took in every detail, her cybernetically enhanced eyes recording and analyzing defensive positions, crew distributions, and weapon emplacements. Everything was exactly where Earth intelligence had predicted it would be, down to the number of guards and the positioning of emergency bulkheads. High Admiral Zexthor awaited her in the flagship's diplomatic chamber, his imposing form dominating the crystalline space. "You honor us with your quaint customs, Commander," he said, mandibles clicking in what humans had long since learned was a sign of condescension. "The honor is mine, Admiral," Chen replied, setting her wooden box on a nearby surface. Inside was an elegant tea set, each piece clearly handcrafted with exquisite attention to detail. This ceremony dates back thousands of years on Earth. The sharing of tea represents respect between warriors, an acknowledgement of honor even between adversaries. As she prepared the tea with practiced movements, Sub-Commander Vex Ailey entered the chamber, her sensor arrays still pinging with unusual readings from the human fleet. She watched Chen's movements with growing suspicion, noting how the commander's eyes seemed to linger fractionally too long on certain structural features of the room. "Your ships continue to move in strange patterns, Commander," Vex Ailey noted, attempting to draw out information. "Our tactical computers cannot discern any strategic advantage to their positioning." Chen smiled as she poured the tea into specially designed cups, adapted for Arxian physiology. "Do they? I suppose we humans have never been good at staying still. Perhaps it's just our nature to keep moving, keep changing, keep evolving." Zexthor accepted the cup with ceremonial grace, but his tone remained dismissive. "Change breeds chaos. The Empire has maintained its military doctrine for 10,000 years. This is why we remain supreme." 10,000 years is impressive, Chen agreed, sipping her own tea. "Though I wonder if supremacy and stagnation might look similar from a distance. After all, a river that stops flowing becomes a swamp." The subtle insult went over Zexthor's head, but Vex Ailey's antennae twitched in concern. Something about the human's confidence felt wrong. No commander about to face overwhelming odds should be this calm. Outside, the Terran fleet continued its intricate dance through space. Each ship's movement was precisely calculated, creating a complex geometric pattern that would only become apparent when it was too late. The Swift Deception's environmental support equipment hummed softly, masking the quantum entanglement signals being transmitted through the flagship's crystalline structure. "Tell me, Admiral," Chen said, refilling his cup with fluid grace. Have you ever wondered why Earth has never developed energy shielding comparable to yours? Why we persist with our primitive armor designs? It is because your technology is primitive, Zexthor stated flatly. Your species is young, barely out of its planetary cradle. Chen's smile took on a hint of predatory satisfaction. Or perhaps we found a better way. One that wasn't obvious to those who had already perfected their approach. Sometimes the best innovations come from those who don't know what's supposed to be impossible. As if on cue, her comms unit chimed softly. "Excuse me," she said, checking the message. "Ah, it seems our time grows short. Thank you for indulging our primitive customs, Admiral." She packed her tea set with deliberate care, each movement measured and calm. At the chamber door, she paused. "One last thing, Admiral. There's an old human saying, pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. Consider it a gift from one warrior to another." As Chen's corvette detached from the flagship, Vexali's sensors finally decoded a fragment of the pattern in the human fleet's movement. Her crystalline form paled as she realized what she was seeing. But by then, the web was already complete, and the trap was ready to spring. Back on her ship, Commander Chen opened a secure quantum channel to Earth Command. "The package is delivered," she reported. "All pieces are in position. The flagship's crystalline structure has been mapped and frequencies recorded." The response was immediate. "Execute Gordian Protocol." Chen looked out at the Arxian fleet, their ships arranged exactly as decades of psychological analysis had predicted they would be. Their pride, their doctrine, their very nature had made them pieces on a board where humans had been setting up the game for years. "May whatever gods you believe in have mercy on your souls," she whispered, touching a simple control on her command chair. Because what's coming next was calculated without any. The first shot came from the Arxian destroyer Crystal Vengeance, exactly as the humans had predicted. Their psychological profile of Zexthor had suggested he would delegate the opening attack to maintain the appearance of responding to provocation rather than initiating conflict. The energy beam, powerful enough to shear a medium-sized moon in half, lanced toward the human battleship Humanity's Resolve. What happened next defied not just Arxian understanding, but seemingly the laws of physics themselves. The beam struck the battleship's hull, and the metal rippled like liquid mercury, patterns of geometric perfection flowing across its surface. The energy disappeared completely, absorbed into the metamaterial structure of the ship. For 3 heartbeats, nothing happened. Then, from the far side of the human formation, another vessel released the collected energy, amplified tenfold. 3 Arxian ships vanished in a blinding flash that momentarily outshone the sun. Impossible. Zexthor's mandibles clattered in shock. Their hulls. What is this devilry? No known material can. Metamaterial Energy Redistribution Network. Commander Chen's voice came through on all frequencies, calm and almost educational in tone. "We didn't bother with shields because we found something better. Your energy weapons aren't just useless. They're now our ammunition." The Arxian fleet's perfect formation, arranged according to 10,000 years of doctrine, became their greatest vulnerability. Each ship was positioned precisely where the humans had wanted them, creating optimal firing lanes for their redistributed energy attacks. "Break formation," Vexali screamed, finally understanding the geometric pattern her sensors had been trying to decode. "They've turned our positioning against us. Every firing solution is pre-calculated." But the order came too late. The human ships moved in perfect coordination, their seemingly chaotic dance revealing itself as an intricate battle plan. Each vessel became part of a vast energy collection and redistribution network, turning the Arxians' own weapons against them with devastating efficiency. "You see, Admiral," Chen continued, her voice carrying the patient tone of a teacher explaining a simple concept, "we studied your doctrine thoroughly. Your ships always maintain specific distances and angles relative to each other. It makes you predictable. And predictability in warfare." She didn't need to finish the sentence. Another volley of Arxian energy weapons was caught, redistributed, and returned with devastating force. Entire squadrons of ships disappeared in cascading explosions that painted space in shades of purple and blue as their crystalline structures shattered. On his command podium, Zexthor watched in horror as his carefully planned assault crumbled. The humans weren't just fighting back. They were executing a battle plan that had anticipated his every move, turning his own tactical doctrine into a weapon against his fleet. All ships, independent action. He ordered, abandoning millennia of doctrine in desperation. Break pattern and engage at will. Too late, Chen replied softly. The web is already woven. But don't worry, Admiral. This is just the beginning of your education. You wanted to teach us proper military doctrine. Let us show you how warfare has evolved while you remained supreme. As if to emphasize her point, the human ships began their second phase of attack. Their hulls rippled again, but this time they weren't just redirecting energy. They were changing shape, adapting their forms to create new weapons on the fly. The humanity's resolve extended crystalline structures of its own, mocking the Arxian aesthetic, while demonstrating a mastery of material science that made their technology look primitive by comparison. Other ships sprouted what looked like organic appendages, their surfaces becoming matte black and absorbing all light. Impossible, Vex Ailey whispered, her sensors struggling to maintain lock on the transforming vessels. They're ships. They're adapting to each individual attack. Learning, changing. Evolution in real time. Chen explained, still maintaining that educational tone. You kept your doctrine pure for 10,000 years. We spent that time learning to become something new every second we need to. Your strength is your doctrine. Ours is that we have none. The battle was no longer just a defeat. It was becoming a demonstration of human superiority that would shatter the Arxian Empire's military reputation forever. And somewhere in the chaos, Vex Ailey realized that every shot, every movement, every response had been orchestrated long before the first ship arrived in the solar system. The humans hadn't prepared for this battle. They had engineered it down to the smallest detail. Each destroyed ship, each failed maneuver, each desperate attempt to adapt, all of it had been predicted and planned for. As another wave of redistributed energy tore through the Arxian fleet's formerly perfect formation, Chen's voice came through one final time. And now, Admiral, let us show you what we've been building while you thought we were just moving chaotically. Vex Ailey's crystalline form shimmered with stress patterns as her sensors reported something that should have been impossible. The human ships were getting larger, not just appearing larger. They were physically growing, their hull material spreading and expanding like living tissue. "Hi, Admiral," she called out, her voice tight with barely controlled panic. The human vessels are incorporating debris from our destroyed ships into their structure. They're consuming our technology. Before Zexthor could respond, a new voice cut across all communication channels. Commander Marcus Wong of the Prometheus Ascended a young human male announced cheerfully. "I see you've noticed our 4G system in action. Fascinating, isn't it?" The main viewer showed a human with features Chen had identified as Asian, wearing what appeared to be casual attire rather than a proper military uniform. He was eating something from a bowl with 2 wooden sticks, appearing entirely unconcerned with the battle raging around his ship. What manner of technological abomination is this? Zexthor demanded, his mandate clacking in fury. Wong slurped something from his bowl before responding. Functional ordnance replication through gravitational engineering. FORGE for short. We're basically using your ship's remains as raw material for ammunition and repairs. Waste not, want not, you know. The casual way he revealed this capability infuriated Zexthor, who ordered a full spread of quantum torpedoes, the fleet's most devastating weapons. "Let's see your ships consume these, human." "Oh, those are interesting," Wong replied, still eating. "Hey, Sarah, remember when we leaked the blueprints for these to the Arxians? What was it, 30 years ago. 32. Chen's voice came through, amused. We needed them to develop weapons that could be effectively turned against them. The quantum torpedoes were perfect. High energy yield, predictable decay patterns. The torpedoes streaked across space, their warheads designed to tear holes in reality itself. The human ships made no attempt to evade. Instead, their growing forms simply opened what appeared to be mouths in their hulls, swallowing the torpedoes whole. Delicious, Wang commented. The crystalline matrices in your weapons are particularly nutritious for our 4G systems. The quantum warheads give it that extra kick, you know. Vexelli's tactical display showed something even more disturbing. The human fleet was herding them toward Jupiter's orbital plane. Their seemingly random attacks had been pushing the Arxian ships into an ever-tightening formation, but not through direct force. They were using psychology, predicting how Arxian commanders would react to each threat, and using those reactions to position them exactly where they wanted. "High Admiral," she called out, "we need to break away from Jupiter. They're positioning us for something." "Listen to your sub-commander, Zexthor." Chen's voice returned, all pretense of casualness gone. "She's the only one who's been seeing the patterns. Though I'm afraid it's rather too late now." The human ships had grown to nearly twice their original size, their surfaces now a bizarre hybrid of terrestrial and Arxian technology. They had arranged themselves in a precise geometric pattern around the trapped Arxian fleet, their hulls beginning to glow with accumulated energy. "Fun fact about Jupiter," Wang continued, setting aside his now empty bowl. "Its magnetic field is absolutely massive, strong enough to kill an unshielded human from quite a distance. We spent decades studying how it interacts with various materials, particularly your crystalline technology." Realization dawned on Vexelli's face. The tea ceremony, the environmental equipment they'd brought aboard. They were scanning our crystalline structures. "Give the sub-commander a prize," Chen said. "Every piece of technology we've shown you, every capability we've revealed, has been leading to this moment. The metamaterials, the 4G system, even our ship's apparent chaos, all of it was preparation for what comes next." The human ships began to pulse in sequence, each flash perfectly timed. The energy they had absorbed from Arxian weapons, combined with the processed material from destroyed ships, was being channeled into something new. "You know what humans are really good at?" Wang asked conversationally. "Taking someone else's principles and turning them into something they never imagined possible. You showed us quantum torpedoes, we turned them into food. You showed us crystalline computing, we turned it into programmable matter. You showed us your perfect military doctrine, and we turned it into the perfect trap." Chen finished. "Gordian Protocol, execute final phase." The human ships released their accumulated energy in perfectly timed pulses, creating a resonance pattern that interacted with Jupiter's magnetic field. The result was a cascading wave of quantum disruption that played havoc with the Arxian ship's crystalline structure. "Impossible," Zexthor whispered as his flagship systems began to fail. "We are the supreme." "No, Admiral," Chen corrected gently. "You were supreme. Past tense. Welcome to the future." The quantum disruption wave rippled through space, invisible but devastating. Arxian ships, their crystalline structures resonating at frequencies they were never designed to handle, began to break apart from the inside. Hairline fractures appeared in their supposedly indestructible hulls, spreading like spiderwebs across their surfaces. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Commander Wang's voice carried genuine appreciation. "The harmonics of destruction. Each ship's structural failure adds to the resonance pattern, making it stronger, more precise. It's like a symphony where each shattered crystal becomes part of the music." On the Crystal Dominion's bridge, systems failed in cascading patterns. The quantum crystalline computers that gave Arxian ships their technological edge were proving to be their greatest weakness. High Admiral Zexthor watched in horror as his mighty fleet began to tear itself apart. "Emergency protocols," he screamed, his mandibles clicking frantically. Shut down all non-essential systems. Redirect power to structural integrity. I wouldn't do that if I were you, Chen warned, almost sympathetically. Your power systems are crystalline-based too. The more energy you pump through them, the stronger the resonance becomes. Physics can be so inconvenient sometimes, can't it? Vex'Ali, whose scientific background had always been regarded as a weakness by her military superiors, suddenly understood the full scope of the human strategy. The tea ceremony, she whispered. The specific mineral content of the tea. It wasn't just for scanning our ships, it was marking them, leaving trace elements that would amplify these specific frequencies. Finally, Wang said, someone who appreciates the details. Do you know how long it took us to develop a tea blend that would leave exactly the right crystalline residue in your biological systems? The ceremony wasn't just psychological warfare, it was chemical and physical too. Around them, the human ships continued their precise dance, each movement adding to the destructive resonance. Their transformed hulls, now a hybrid of stolen Arxian technology and human innovation, pulsed with energy that seemed to bend the very fabric of space. The 4G system, Vex'Ali continued, her scientific mind racing ahead. You're not just consuming our technology, you're learning from it in real time, adapting your ships to generate the exact frequencies needed to destroy us. Give that sub-commander a promotion, Chen replied, though I'm afraid the position of High Admiral might be opening up soon. Zexthor, his pride cracking along with his flagship, made one last desperate gambit. All ships, emergency hyperspace jump. Scatter formation. That would be extremely unwise, Wang cautioned, but several Arxian ships attempted to engage their hyperdrives anyway. The results were catastrophic. The quantum resonance had already compromised their drive systems, and the attempted jumps caused them to implode, adding their energy to the destructive symphony. We study your hyperspace technology for decades, Chen explained. Did you really think we wouldn't have countermeasures? Every possible escape route was calculated and blocked before we ever let you enter this system. The remaining Arxian ships were being herded closer together by the resonance pattern. Their own technology turned against them in ways their designers had never imagined possible. The human fleet maintained their formation with mechanical precision, each vessel contributing to the quantum harmonics that were slowly but surely destroying the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. You know what the really clever part is? Wang asked conversationally. This entire system wasn't even designed as a weapon originally. We were researching quantum communication through crystalline matrices. The destructive potential was just a happy accident. Well, happy for us at least. Vex'Ali watched as sections of the flagship's bridge began to crystallize and shatter. How long? She asked, her voice steady despite the destruction around her. How long have you been planning this specific battle? The tea ceremony was developed 20 years ago, Chen replied. The forge system took 15 years to perfect. The quantum resonance technology, about 12 years of research, but the psychological profile of your military doctrine. We started working on that the day we first encountered your species. 37 years of preparation, Wang added, all leading to this moment, this specific battlefield, these exact circumstances. We knew you would come. We knew exactly how you would react. And we knew exactly how to turn every single one of your technological advantages into a fatal weakness. The Crystal Dominion's primary systems began their final collapse, crystalline structures shattering in beautiful, deadly patterns. As emergency force fields failed and atmosphere began venting into space, Chen's voice came through one last time. For what it's worth, Admiral, you performed exactly as expected. Your pride, your adherence to doctrine, your dismissal of our capabilities, all of it was predicted and planned for. Your only real mistake was assuming that our apparent weakness wasn't precisely engineered to bring about this very moment. The symphony of destruction reached its crescendo, and the pride of the Arxian Empire began its final movement toward oblivion. With his fleet crumbling around him, High Admiral Zexthor made the decision that would seal his place in history. Deploy the dimensional shredders, he ordered, his mandibles clicking in grim determination. All of them. A horrified gasp ran through what remained of his bridge crew. The dimensional shredders were the Empire's most closely guarded secret weapon, forbidden by every galactic convention. They didn't just destroy their targets, they erased them from reality itself, tearing holes in the fabric of space-time. High Admiral, Vex'Eli protested, the cascading effects cold. Will be preferable to defeat, Sexthor cut her off. Deploy them. Now. Throughout the remaining Arxian ships, hidden compartments opened, revealing sleek black devices that seemed to absorb light itself. They launched in waves, thousands of reality-destroying weapons heading toward the human fleet. Commander Chen's laughter caught them all by surprise. "Oh, Admiral," she said, her voice carrying genuine amusement. "Did you really think we didn't know about those? We've known about your dimensional shredders for longer than you've had them." "Impossible," Sexthor roared. "They are our most closely guarded. Who do you think gave you the theoretical framework for their development?" Wang interrupted, still sounding cheerful. "Those classified research papers your scientists discovered 30 years ago. We wrote them, left them where you'd find them, even encoded them in a way that matched your scientists' thinking patterns. The dimensional shredders reached their targets and passed straight through the human ships as if they weren't there." "Quantum phase shifting," Chen explained. "Simple, really, once you understand how dimensional shredders work, which we do, intimately, since we designed them. Well, designed them to fail specifically in this way. You see," Wang continued, "we needed you to develop weapons that operated on very specific quantum principles. Weapons that, when they failed, would create a particular type of dimensional instability, one that our ships could harvest and redirect." The human vessels began to glow with an impossible light, their hybrid hulls absorbing and processing the dimensional energy from the failed weapons. The space around them twisted and warped, reality itself seeming to bow to their will. "Did you ever wonder," Chen asked softly, "why humans seem to have so many stories about monsters, about things that lurk in darkness, that twist and change and devour? We've always had a gift for imagining horrors, Admiral, and then making them real." The human ships began to transform again, but this time it was different. Their hulls didn't just shift and flow, they seemed to fold through dimensions that shouldn't exist, becoming shapes that hurt to look at directly. What had appeared to be mechanical technology revealed itself as something far stranger. "Humanity's greatest strength," Wang explained, his voice taking on an oddly reverberating quality, "isn't our technology. It's our imagination. We see something terrifying, and instead of running from it, we figure out how to become it." The failed dimensional shredders had torn tiny holes in reality, holes that the human ships were now using as anchor points for something much, much worse. "We spent decades preparing this battlefield," Chen said. "Every weapon you brought, every tactic you employed, every secret you thought you had, all of it was designed to fail in exactly this way, creating exactly these conditions. Your dimensional shredders were the final key, the last piece we needed you to put into place." Space itself began to fold around the human fleet, their ships becoming nexus points for dimensional energies that should not have been possible to control. The remaining Arxian vessels found themselves being pulled toward these distortions, their crystalline structures resonating with frequencies that existed outside normal spacetime. "You wanted to show us proper military doctrine," Wang said. "We wanted to show you why humanity's chaos, our constant change, our ability to imagine and become our own nightmares, made us something your doctrine could never account for." On the Crystal Dominion's failing bridge, Vex'Eli watched in horrified fascination as reality itself seemed to twist around the human vessels. "What are you?" she whispered. "We are what we needed to become to survive you," Chen answered simply. "You threatened our existence, so we learned to threaten existence itself. You brought your perfect doctrine, your supreme technology, your forbidden weapons. We brought humanity's oldest and greatest weapon, our ability to look into the darkness and learn to use what we find there. The dimensional energies reached their peak, and space began to tear itself apart around the Arxian fleet. The last thing High Admiral Zexthor saw before his flagship was pulled into the resulting void was a human ship that had twisted itself into a shape that his mind refused to comprehend, a shape that reminded him, in his final moments, of the monsters from his species' oldest legends. As the dimensional storms began to subside, the human ships gradually reverted to their original forms. The horrifying, reality-bending shapes they had assumed folded back into more conventional geometries, though their hulls still rippled with absorbed Arxian technology. High Admiral Zexthor's flagship, the Crystal Dominion, hung in space like a shattered sculpture. Most of its crew was dead or evacuated, its systems failing beyond repair. In what remained of the bridge, Zexthor and Vex'ahli watched through cracked viewports as Commander Chen's corvette approached. Now, Chen's voice came through the failing comm systems. "I believe you're ready for your final lesson in human warfare." Multiple holographic displays materialized around the bridge, each showing a different aspect of humanity's decades-long preparation for this battle. Research papers, tactical analyses, psychological profiles, and technological developments, all of it carefully orchestrated to lead to this moment. 37 years ago, Wang began his ship-maintaining position near the Swift Deception. "We first encountered your scout ships. You thought you were observing us secretly. In reality, we detected you immediately and began planning for this day." The displays showed the evolution of human technology, but with annotations revealing how each development had been carefully staged. What had appeared to be trial and error, lucky breakthroughs, and random advancements was revealed as an intricately choreographed performance. "Your first mistake," Chen continued, "was assuming that our chaotic nature was a weakness. You saw our argumentative politics, our competing corporations, our seemingly random technological development, and you thought us primitive. You never considered that chaos might be our chosen camouflage. Every technological breakthrough we showed the galaxy," Wang added, "was carefully selected to guide your development in specific directions. We leaked certain advances, concealed others, and always watched how you adapted your doctrine to account for what you thought you knew about us." Vex'ahli, her scientific mind still active despite their defeat, studied the displays with growing understanding. The metamaterial research we dismissed 5 years ago, the quantum communication theories our scientists called impossible, the gravitational manipulation experiments that seemed to fail. All of it orchestrated, Chen confirmed. "We needed you to believe in our limitations, to trust in your superiority. More importantly, we needed you to develop your technology in very specific ways." The displays showed how human scientists had seeded the galactic research community with papers that seemed to confirm Arxian technological supremacy, while subtly guiding their development down predetermined paths. "Your crystalline computing," Wang explained. "We designed it to be vulnerable to specific resonance frequencies. Your quantum torpedoes, built according to theoretical frameworks we created. Even your dimensional shredders were developed using principles we wanted you to discover." "But why?" Zexthor asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Why such an elaborate deception?" "Because," Chen said softly, "this battle needed to be decisive enough to prevent future conflicts, but not so devastating as to breed generational hatred. We needed to defeat not just your fleet, but the very idea that humanity could be safely conquered." The displays showed further analysis, casualty projections, psychological impact assessments, long-term diplomatic implications. Everything had been calculated to achieve maximum strategic effect with minimal loss of life. "Your empire prides itself on perfect doctrine, on supreme technology," Wang continued. "We needed to show you something your doctrine couldn't comprehend, something your technology couldn't counter. So we became that something." The dimensional horrors, Vex'ahli realized. "You didn't just develop that technology. You shaped our entire civilization's scientific development to make it possible." "Precisely," Chen confirmed. "Every advance you made, every discovery you celebrated, Every moment of pride in your supreme technology. All of it was leading you here, to this moment, to this specific defeat. The displays showed one final set of data, the complete psychological profile of High Admiral Zexthor, compiled over decades. Every decision he had made in this battle had been predicted, planned for, and used against him. Your final lesson, Admiral, Chen said, her voice gentle now, is this. Humanity's greatest weapon isn't our technology, our ships, or even our capacity for violence. It's our ability to plan, to adapt, to become whatever we need to be to survive. You thought you were studying us, but we were designing you, shaping your entire civilization into a weapon we could use against itself. And now, Zexthor asked, mandibles clicking weakly. Now, Wang replied, you carry this lesson back to your empire. You tell them what you saw here. You tell them why they should never mistake humanity's chaos for weakness, our apparent limitations for actual constraints, our friendliness for lack of preparation. Because next time, Chen concluded, we won't be so gentle. Next time, the horrors we become might not choose to change back. 1 month after the Battle of Jupiter, Sub-Commander, now Fleet Commander, Vex'Eli stood before the Archean War Council. The crystalline chamber, once a symbol of supreme confidence, now seemed fragile to her enlightened eyes. She had spent weeks analyzing the human victory, understanding just how completely they had orchestrated every aspect of the conflict. The humans, she began, her voice steady, did not merely defeat us. They designed us. Every technological advancement we celebrated, every tactical doctrine we perfected, every weapon we developed, all of it was shaped by their invisible hands, crafted to create the perfect conditions for our defeat. The council chamber erupted in discord, crystalline forms shifting colors in agitation. Impossible, one member declared. No species could plan on such a scale. That assumption, Vex'Eli replied, was precisely what they counted on. We believed ourselves supreme because we could not imagine any other possibility. They understood this about us and used it against us. She activated a holographic display, showing the complete timeline of human manipulation. Research papers strategically leaked, technological developments carefully staged, diplomatic interactions precisely calculated, all of it part of a plan decades in the making. They did not just prepare for war, she continued. They prepared us for war. They shaped our understanding of them, our expectations, our very perception of reality. When the battle came, we were not fighting the humans, we were fighting our own assumptions about them. In Earth orbit, Commander Sarah Chen and Commander Marcus Wong stood aboard the newly commissioned diplomatic vessel Bridge of Understanding. Its hybrid hull, incorporating both human innovation and Archean crystalline technology, represented the future they had fought to create. The Archean Empire is beginning reforms, Wong noted, reading the latest reports. Vex'Eli's promotion to Fleet Commander is just the start. They're restructuring their entire approach to military doctrine and technological development. Chen smiled, sipping from a cup of the same tea she had served during that fateful meeting. They're adapting, learning to question their assumptions, exactly as we hoped they would. Across the galaxy, other civilizations were frantically reassessing their understanding of humanity. Reports of the battle spread, growing more fantastic with each telling. Some spoke of human ships that bent reality, others of weapons that turned strength into weakness. All of them carried the same underlying message. Humanity was not to be underestimated. In the Archean War College, the Battle of Jupiter became a mandatory study. Young officers learned of High Admiral Zexthor's fatal pride, of the humans' intricate deception, of technology that seemed to bridge the gap between science and nightmare. But more importantly, they learned to question their own assumptions, to look beyond doctrine, to understand that true strength lies not in supremacy but in adaptability. Commander Vex'Eli, as she preferred to be called now, rejecting her promotion to symbolize the change she sought to create, established a new division within the Empire's military, the Office of Alternative Analysis. Its mandate was to question everything, to imagine the impossible, to think like their potential adversaries rather than assume superiority over them. On Earth, in a quiet memorial garden, Commander Chen stood before a monument that combined human and Arxian artistic elements. It listed no victories, celebrated no triumphs. Instead, it bore a simple inscription in multiple languages. In memory of all those who had to die so that many more might live. Was it worth it? Wang asked, joining her at the memorial. All those years of preparation, the resources invested, the lives lost, even if they were fewer than a direct conflict would have claimed. Chen touched the monument gently, feeling the smooth blend of crystal and stone. We showed them something terrifying, she said softly, something their doctrine couldn't explain, their technology couldn't fight. We became their monsters, their nightmares. But in doing so, we also showed them that monsters can choose not to destroy, that nightmares can end with awakening rather than death. And now they know what we can become if threatened, but they also know we choose not to be that thing unless forced. It's a lesson that will echo through generations, not just for the Arxians, but for all who might think to test humanity's apparent limitations. The sun set over the memorial garden, casting long shadows that seemed to dance and shift, remembering shapes that defied comprehension. In orbit, human ships patrolled alongside Arxian vessels, their crews learning from each other, growing beyond old doctrines and assumptions. The galaxy had changed. Humanity had revealed itself not as a primitive species to be conquered, but as something far more profound. A civilization that could imagine horrors and choose not to become them, that could wield supreme power and choose restraint, that could win absolutely and choose mercy. It was, perhaps, the most terrifying revelation of all. For what is more frightening than a monster that chooses not to be monstrous, yet remembers how to become one if needed? In the end, that was humanity's greatest victory. Not the defeat of an empire, but the transformation of an enemy into a student, eager to learn what other lessons humanity's chaos might teach.